Right. And as usual, we have some career-related considerations. We've received a question from a very young person who is trying to choose which area of law to practice. And this person, I think, doesn't have much experience in legal profession. So would you be so kind actually to suggest what is the way to find your area of law?
It's quite difficult, I think. I think it's largely something that comes from experience. Some things you need to try and find out that you don't like them. And what was strange for me is that I had always told myself that I wanted to be a corporate lawyer, which at some points I was a corporate lawyer, but I told myself specifically I never wanted to be a property lawyer because I found it to be very dry. And then I became a property lawyer. And again, the experience of it, actually, I enjoyed it because it was very different to how it was on paper. The theory of land law is quite different to the practice of property law. So experience, I think, is one of the best ways to discover what you actually like. Maybe just by doing some kind of work experience, by doing some pro bono work in different areas of law and seeing what works best for you is, I think, a little bit better than just looking at it on paper, because it allows you to actually, I guess, contextualize. You can see the application of what you're reading about. For example, criminal law, I always thought was fascinating on paper. And I did a lot of additional work in criminal law. I did an elective in advanced criminal litigation. But in practice, it's not something I actually really wanted to go into, aside from the fact that we had the legal aid cuts in the UK, which really brought down, I guess, the financial viability of that as a career. It also is not a particularly attractive career prospect for some people who don't want to spend a lot of time working with potentially criminals.
Yeah. What about the introduction of SQE if we compare it to the old system or old route of qualification where you had to have several sittings like in the departments?
I actually thought that was a very good idea, the way it was done previously with all of the seats. There was always the requirement to have at least one contentious seat, which I thought was very good, because there's always the risk that things will, pass on to litigation. There's always a need to understand how that would work. And I think having a knowledge of multiple areas is really important, because nothing fits neatly into one category. For example, if you're doing, say, mergers and acquisitions, it's not just about corporate law. It might be about property law as well. There'll be considerations in dispute resolution in terms of liabilities of a company that might carry over. There may be employees, so there'll be considerations there as well. There's always some degree of crossover. So I think it's very important to have at least a basic understanding of multiple areas of law.
Yeah, I agree. It's very fascinating how everything is actually moving to a cross-disciplinary approach. So now even some lawyers considering maybe to study coding or, language skills are very much essential. Even Lord Danning, he was a mathematician, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had, I think he had a double first from Cambridge in law and maths. Yeah, he was a very, very talented, very interesting guy.
So that is possibly the positive from the SQE, because it actually cuts this necessity to have a law degree if you can just, pass the exams. It is the only word there. It is a difficult or easy thing to do.
But it's going to bring some more skills to the profession. I remember there were quite a few medico-legal sort of experts and firms out there that were, for example, they were qualified dentists, but they were also qualified lawyers. And they would help with basically malpractice and clinical negligence suits, things like that. So I think it's important to have that level of, I guess, diversity in the profession, to have all of these additional skills coming in and not just focusing on one area of law.
Yeah, they have better expertise. It's like similar experience I have in the light of experts who provide, for example, within the some arbitration proceedings, some expert opinion on the domestic jurisdictional issues or something. But actually, you need to know the both systems of law in order to be able to compare. If you just know that domestic law, I think it's not the best expert or something of that nature. Great. So let's start today's lecture.